They have a new quarterback coach, Brian Griese. Got him from ESPN, but he's never coached. How will that go? Also, we're going to get into a little bit of the combine, some guys that really perform well and that perform too well to where the 49ers can't draft them. Will they have an opportunity on them at pick 61? We're going to get into all that and more. You know what it is. It's the San Francisco 49ers Morning Show. Let's go.
Intercepted. It is picked off by Crocker over midfield. He'll run it all the way into the end zone. Touchdown.
The Crock Talk TV podcast. Peace.
Welcome to another episode of the San Francisco 49ers Morning Show. I'm your host, former NFL and AFL defensive back, Eric Crocker. And as always, I'll let y'all know other things I'm doing. We got the Locked On 49ers with myself and Brian Peacock. Make sure y'all tune into that. We come at you 5 days a week. Also, Locked On NFL Draft, everything. We're covering all bases with the NFL Draft. Just put out a new mock, which doesn't have a whole lot to do with the 49ers because they don't got a first round pick. But at some point, maybe we'll do a second round mock, try to get into it. But make sure y'all tune into the Locked On NFL Draft. Also, got the podcast going once a week with the New York Giants. That's pretty awesome, pretty cool to be on all the New York Giant platforms, their YouTube channel, their podcast streaming things, all that good stuff, man. Anyways, with my guy John Schmilk and Tony Pauline, we come at you once a week doing that. Make sure y'all tune into all that good stuff. But it's Monday. I hope everybody's doing good. I see the flames already coming through. Looks like everybody's feeling great this morning. I'm feeling great. And I want to know, are y'all feeling great about the 49ers quarterback hire? I'm going to be honest. When I first heard that Brian Griese was hired as the quarterback coach, it was strange. I guess it kind of caught me off guard, almost like the John Lynch hire. Right when John Lynch got hired, I don't know if y'all remember where y'all were. I remember where I was when that happened. I was upstairs, then I had the TV on downstairs, and I just hear the 49ers have hired John Lynch as general manager. And I'm like, John Lynch, the former football player that's been on Fox. Like, what? And it was him. I'm like, oh my gosh, they're gonna think we're a joke. You know what I'm saying? Just, they had hired Tom Sula. Obviously that failed. Then they went and hired Chip Kelly. Then they fired Chip Kelly after a year. And I mean, it was just kind of a mess at that time. But I will say this. I don't think people really give John Lynch credit. It's like they want to give everybody else around the 49ers organization credit except for John Lynch. But John Lynch, as a GM, the face of it, whatever he does, this is a guy that, I mean, it was a terrible roster. And it seems like he's the guy on the front. Now, I know everybody wants to say, well, it's not him, it's Adam Peters. I don't know who does what. I don't know. John Lynch is the general manager. And I think, when you look at the team where they were and kind of some of the success that they've had over the last 3 years, 2 trips to the NFC Championship game, another trip to a Super Bowl. And that's not easy to do. And, it's funny. They hired Brian Griese, and one of the comments that I got on my YouTube channel was, it was from a team, like it was a fan of another team. And he was just like, this is why the 49ers are going to be good. Like, they think outside the box. It's a little unorthodox, but they do different things than other people. And that's why they've had some level of success. Now, I think if you talk to the 49er fans, they probably be like, oh my gosh, what are we doing? But outside of 49ers fan base, seems like people are kind of warming up to the idea of Brian Griese. So let's dive in a little bit about Brian Griese and why I think, this is something that can potentially work. All right, I'll give my thoughts on it. If you haven't already, obviously I posted a video, about a 7-minute video, kind of giving some of my initial thoughts, but after you have a while to be able to kind of sit and digest it. I wasn't one of those guys that jumped on social media and talked about it like at all. I don't even think I tweeted. I still don't think I've tweeted about the hire. I saw everybody else tweeting though, and I saw what everybody else was thinking and how they felt about it. And you had some people like, How could you like it? You don't know. Or yeah, some people like, oh, I hate it, and why would you do this? Oh, it's gonna be bad for Trey Lance. Brian Griese was drafted in the third round. I'm looking at my notes right now. Brian Griese was drafted in the third round to the Denver Broncos in 1998. Why is that important? Well, the head coach for the Denver Broncos at that time was Mike Shanahan. All right, he won a Super Bowl as a backup to John Elway, obviously a great quarterback, and kind of, I guess if you want to say similar parallels to the start of his career, obviously not drafted as high as Trey Lance, but having to sit behind somebody, obviously Jimmy Garoppolo, not as great as John Elway, but just kind of understanding that process and what it was like. All right, played under both Mike Shanahan and Kyle Shanahan, so obviously played years and eventually was a starter for the Denver Broncos under Mike Shanahan. Also played under Kyle Shanahan. All right, so first thing I took away from that is he knows the Shanahans. The Shanahans know him. If this was someone who you're Kyle Shanahan and okay, I just drafted this guy. This is my baby. If I want to put him in good hands, I want to put him in good hands with someone that I'm really confident. Like, this is the guy for the job. And I've said it really kind of going back a little bit. I kind of trust Kyle Shanahan with who he picks for certain things because so far he's been really good for the most part, right? I mean, if you look at a lot of the coaches that he's had an eye for and he, quote unquote, I don't want to say develop, but he was just like, this guy's going to be a good coach. And lo and behold, a lot of the guys that he said that about, those guys are going to be head coaches. Whether it was Robert Saleh, Robert Saleh, who is that? Everybody wanted Bradley or Bradley or whatever. And a lot of other coaches. But nobody was thinking about Robert Saleh. He was a linebacker coach for the Jaguars. He was a quality control or whatever he was for the Seattle Seahawks. But he hired Saleh because he saw something in him. You know what? I think this guy's gonna be good. He identified that along with the other guys, the LaFleurs, the McVays, Gus Bradley. Excuse me. Thank you, Jerome. The LaFleurs, the McVays, and multiple LaFleurs, right? Who obviously went on and get opportunities in other places. You have the Mike McDaniel, who's been with him for a long time. So this has been a guy who has done a terrific job of identifying who, good coaches. And he brings this guy in, Brian Griese, retired in 2008. And my initial reaction was, he's going to have this throwback mentality. He's going to have this old school thought process on the quarterback position and how, I don't know if I like it. I ain't tweet this out because those were my initial thoughts. And then you start to kind of look at some of the things. In 2009, he was hired by ESPN. Now we knew that. We knew he was hired. We knew he was with ESPN. But in my head, I'm thinking, he's covering the NFL. No, he was not covering the NFL. So from 2009 to 2020, he was covering college football. Well, why is that important? Because again, my initial thought was throwback mentality, not going to understand the new quarterbacks, and he feel like it has to be this way, that way, whatever the case is. Well, nah. He likes the new quarterbacks. He understands the stresses that they put on opposing defenses that they play against. I heard him talking about Lamar Jackson. There was a video floating around, and it was pretty cool to hear him talk about Lamar and like the benefits of having a quarterback like that. And it seemed like he was really high on it. He wasn't one of those guys that just dismissed that type of quarterback, that style of quarterback, and say, no, your quarterback is supposed to look like this other guy. All right. Those weren't really his thoughts at all. And it was very refreshing to hear someone that isn't necessarily new to this era, or has more of, he played it a while ago, but he's never coached. Now, here's a whole other thing. All right. I know there are a lot of people, well, he's never coached. How is he supposed to develop Trey Lance? How do you develop Trey Lance if you've never coached before? Well, one, there's been plenty of things that people have done, and they gain experience in different ways. All right. They gain experience different ways. And this is just me pertaining to like coaching. We're going to get to the other aspects of it. But when I look at him as a potential coach, at the end of the day, if we're talking about a quarterback coach, and we've had these conversations. I obviously I was in the NFL with the New York Jets. I played, professional football and different levels. The position coaches, when it comes to development, a lot of it is the mental aspect of it. Their main job, if you ask a position coach, if y'all go and message a coach or talk to them, I've talked to several of them. I've had some. Their main job is, how do I get this guy on the field? And the best way to get him on the field is from the mental perspective, because it's just so different. So getting the game to slow down for you. I remember that was one of my biggest things, like getting to the New York Jets, and they played this kind of like fire zone defense. And I mean, just how fast things change with each motion. And it starts off as it's a fire zone 3, and if it's a fire zone 3, then this is my responsibility. Like, I'm here, then I have the first guy out. But if it's a bunch, or if you have three guys and it goes into a bunch, my responsibility changes, as opposed to if it's a sky cover 3, or what if it's cover 2? How do I defend this? And then do we run the star coverage versus this? I mean, there are all these things that you have to be able to get at the snap of a finger, because every time somebody shifts, and 49ers shift more than anyone, your responsibility changes. And you have to understand that right now. Like, what is my responsibility? Well, how do you get a guy to, get this through to his head right away? Well, it's the coaches. It's not from a technical standpoint for the most part. Now, will position coaches talk about your technique? Yeah, they'll say something. Hey, don't open that. Oh, your shoulder flew open. You're a quarterback, right? Hey, your shoulder flew open. Kind of try to keep that tight. Make that throw. Woo, woo. Oh, hey, your eyes should be here. Whatever. But the biggest thing is getting the quarterback to play from a mental standpoint. And what is that going to do? It's going to translate over to your quarterback being better in the pocket. And ultimately, if you look at a lot of how Kyle Shanahan wanted to play Trey Lance, why do they have Trey Lance? The running element that Trey Lance has, like that's extra. That's like, well, yeah, okay, he has the ability to do these things, but Kyle wants Trey Lance to play from the pocket. He wants him to, and I don't want to say from the pocket, excuse me. Kyle wants Trey Lance to truly understand and see the field the way that he does. So whether that's in the pocket, whether that's doing some things on the move, he wants him to play, like, see the field the way I do. Know your reads. Now, why Brian Griese? All right. Again, no coaching experience. But one thing he does have is the experience of playing under the Shanahans, knowing exactly what the Shanahans want to do. He knows how Kyle coaches. He coached him. It's such a big, like the experience of playing under someone and understanding how they tick and being able to relay that to a guy like Trey Lance. A guy that might not understand it. I think that's a big part of being a quarterback coach. Just truly understanding it. Like, I understand how you feel. I understand what you're seeing. I understand what your coach wants. I understand what the Shanahans, I understand what they're trying to do here. And I can help you. I'm sitting in the meeting rooms with you. I'm on the field with you. I'm in your ear. I'm helping you throughout this process because I've been through it. So, okay, he hasn't coached. The concepts of what they're trying to do and what they're trying to establish, like that hasn't changed. So if you are a young quarterback, you are Trey Lance, you're going to be listening to someone who has been there, done that, and not just because, oh, well, he played in the league. No, he played under these guys, under the Shanahans. He's been under those guys. He truly understands it to be able to give that information the best way possible to a young Trey Lance who's still developing. I see my guy Mike Shields here. He says, Griese being drafted by Mike Shanahan, he probably can relate to the struggles that come early in your career too. Yeah, no, 100%. Remember, there was that it was like an article or whatever. It was kind of floating around on with Jake Plummer, and was talking about how playing for Mike Shanahan, like, it was so tough, and he never felt good enough, And I bet there's some, levels of that with quarterbacks that play for Kyle Shanahan. It's probably extremely tough, but having a quarterback coach who understands that, like, listen, I've been there. I understand how you feel, and this is how we're gonna work through it. And you know what, Trey? I wish I had the talent you had. I had some people, and they were like, "Well, Brian Griese wasn't good." What Brian Griese had like 11-year NFL career. What do you mean he wasn't good? He was good enough to hang around for that long. And I think that a lot of the best coaches are guys that didn't really know how to play at a high level because Deion Sanders, Jerry Rice, a lot of what made them great, it's kind of hard to teach that, and it's kind of hard for everyone to have that. That's extremely difficult, right? To have Jerry Rice. Not everybody has Jerry Rice's grit, work ethic, the things that just made him great. So it's going to be hard for Jerry Rice to coach that in someone else. So you got to figure out different ways, right? A lot of times, a lot of the great coaches, really good coaches, are guys that either didn't play and they just understand stuff from an X and O standpoint, or guys that maybe they weren't just great football players, but they were good enough and they maybe had to quote unquote overachieve to get to that point, right? They had to overachieve to get every opportunity that they had, but they understood, like, man, like, look at me. I was a 6'2", 200-pound cornerback. Wasn't very fast, 4.55 type guy. All right. I can see what guys are going through and I understand it. And maybe my expectations are different because of everything that I went through. I knew who I was as a cornerback. I knew what my strengths were. I knew what my weaknesses were. I knew areas, man, I wish I could do like this guy. Or, oh, man, hey, you got this. You can do this better. I can't do that because I didn't have the ability to do that. But, hey, try this. These are things that you can do because you got this different element to your game than I did. Or, you know what, maybe you're not as long as me, but you do this extremely well. Like when you weren't an elite athlete, it's easier to coach. It really is because you understand more of the struggles. And I think with a guy like Brian Griese, who was a solid quarterback, he played for a while, 11 years, but his ability to really get that through to a young Trey Lance and help the development curve on that, I think that's going to be big. So I like to hire. There are some people, how do you know if you like to hire or not? I see on Twitter. I ain't get my opinion on Twitter, but I like to hire from the standpoint of he understands it. He gets it. He understands it. The Shanahan's. He knows what Shanahan wants. And clearly he really wants to be a part of this because he left a job where he probably was making more money and was way less stressful, way less stressful of a job. He has to really want to coach. I think the best experience is actually going through it. So, okay, he doesn't have years of experience coaching. Well, he got years of experience playing and truly understand it. And at the quarterback position, the guy who has to be one of the smartest guys on the field, I think he'll be all right. And again, I like the fact that he knows, what this young crop of quarterbacks are and how they've changed the game and the development curve on that. And he's seen it in college. Again, that was the biggest thing I was worried about. How are his thoughts on and views on the quarterback position going to mesh with the younger dynamic quarterbacks? And seeing that video, he answered it. So I like the hire. I'm optimistic about it. I'm optimistic about anyone that Shanahan picks because so far he's been pretty good at judging coaches' abilities and they've gotten the most out of players. So hopefully Brian Griese gets the most out of Trey Lance. I'll take 2 calls right now if y'all want to come on and kind of give your thoughts about it. And then we'll get into some of my post-combine thoughts. All right. Some players where I really feel the direction I feel like the 49ers should go in at pick 61. We're going to get into that. But there's the link right now. So if you feel like hopping on, get on in here. Give your thoughts on the quarterback hire, or if you have questions, things that you want me to answer, let's do it. Trey Lance will grow once defenses realize they cannot just stack the box on him or blitz him all the time. He will show the lead. Yeah. And you got to get there, right? Like truly, like, okay, they stack the box, they're blitzing you, they're making things kind of difficult, they're giving you looks you haven't seen. I think there's a growth and development aspect to that, truly understanding, kind of what you're seeing and getting used to that and knowing how to counter it. I think those are things that he'll learn over the next couple years. I don't know if it'd be great right away, just hit the ground running, just, oh man, I'm just reading defenses amazingly great and I'm able to counter it. Like, nah, there's gonna be ups and downs. There's gonna be times where he might see some ghosts. But I think ultimately, like down the line, yeah. And we've seen that again. I hate just a lot of young quarterbacks. A lot of young quarterbacks. You see them the game start to slow down for them. The guys that are playing at a high level. Seems like the less talented guys make better coaches because it's their understanding of X's and O's, because you can't rely on mostly physical gifts. I think that's part of it, but I don't even think it's so much like relying on X's and O's. I think it's just truly understanding their limitations and things that they wish they had and how they could have potentially played a little bit different. But also understanding what it took for them just to make it and not be able to, like you said, rely on the physical capability. So, yeah, I see that. Griese took over an old Super Bowl team after John Elway retired. Griese still went to a Pro Bowl in 2000. Yep. People are tripping because they think Brian is a technique coach. Not my job. Now, again, I think that is like most people think that position coaches, that's what they're there for, to teach and coach technique. And again, there are things you're going to work on. Like everybody goes through indies. Everybody has their fundies that they do before practice and things like that. So there is going to be an element of, continuing to create good habits. And, Trey Lance is going to have his routine that he does, that he gets from, what's the quarterback coach he's working with out there? It starts with a B, out in John Beck, right? John Beck. He's going to have a little routine, a little warm-up routine, and it's going to help create good habits. That's what you want to do. Before practice, go out there early and just go through your mechanics. Go through your little thing. Keep things firing. Everybody sees the video of Dak Prescott, and he's doing a little thing with his like hips, where he like pushing his hips out, and that's him just activating his hips, keeping them activated, making sure that he's going through these, just this routine to keep the hips activated in his throws. I know that's a big part of it. So, yeah, I wouldn't say necessarily not my job to fix someone's techniques or something. If you see it, to point it out. But again, the biggest thing for any position coach is, I got to get this guy on the field. I got to get him playing at a high level. And if he does, it's going to be with his mind, because he has the physical capabilities. That's why he's in the NFL. Trey Lance has the physical capabilities. That's why he's in the NFL. Trey Lance has elite physical capabilities. That's why he was drafted number 3 overall. Here we go. Any running back coach news? No, but I'd assume that Anthony Lynn maybe has a big hand in that. I'd assume. All right, so I ain't getting anybody call in about their thoughts on the quarterback coach hiring. So we're going to move on to the next thing. And it's the draft. It's the combine. All right, shout out to everybody in the chat right now. If you haven't already, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. I did a little kind of digging on numbers on some of these teams, how they're built, playoff teams and whatnot. And a couple of interesting things I came across. One, top 10 defense this year in yards. The top 10 defenses in yards in the NFL. 5 out of, or half of the top 10 guys, half of the top 10 defenses made the playoffs. All right, so out of top 10 defenses, 5 of them made the playoffs. Now, scoring defense, that was different. All right, everybody looks at yardage and stuff like that, and that's why it's like, dude, the yards, who gives a fuck? Who gives a fuck about the yards? You know what I'm saying? Like everybody talk about these yards and, oh, this guy had that. Like, how many points did they score? So when we always go to the, I always go to the championship game, right? And everybody talks about, well, 49ers can't stop this and that. And they had 2 guys go over 100 yards. I don't care about the yards. How many points did they score? And the yards, as far as top 10 defenses goes, isn't really indicative of being a good football team. What is the bigger thing that to look into? Points. All right. 7 out of the top 10 scoring defenses, the team that limited the most amount of points. 7 out of the top 10 made the playoffs. So that's why I always came back to it, and I tried to get everybody to understand this. When you're watching the 49ers, and okay, 2 guys go for 100 yards against the Rams. Okay, how many points did they score? Well, it took everything in them to score 20 points for a team that was 12 points below their average for the season. That was their lowest point total in the entire playoffs. So you can say, I got my guy Jay Boogie in here, and he said, well, third down conversion rate. Points. Third downs, how many points are you giving up? And 7 out of the top 10 scoring defenses were in the playoffs. What the 49ers do in the playoffs? They gave up, I don't care about third down conversions, they gave up 16 points a game in the playoffs. 16, and played 3 of the most explosive offenses. So we can say, well, third downs, we can say, oh, these yards, we can say all that. They average 16 points given up in each game in the playoffs against 3 of the most explosive offenses. 16. Now, what as far as the offensive side of the ball goes, I looked at the top 10 in yardage offensively. 9 out of the top 10 offenses, as far as yards go, made the playoffs. Also, 9 out of the top 10 in scoring offenses made the playoffs. So I started to kind of come around and think about limit scoring, which seems obvious, right? But I think you got to be high-powered on offense. You got to be high-powered on offense. Like, your goal, it shouldn't even be, I want the number 1 yardage team. Like, no, I want to put 40 on everybody's heads. How do I do that? Because when it came down to it, 49ers couldn't score. They couldn't score in the playoffs. They struggled to score points. How can I be the most explosive offense in the league? Because right here, what I'm seeing is a high-powered offense translates to the playoffs more than a high-powered defense. Now, that's not to say you can't have a good run on defense. And obviously, like when you get to the playoffs, things tighten down a little bit. But you got to be able to score points. You got to be dynamic from that standpoint. Got my guy Jamal in here. Shout out to my guy Jamal. You got to be fair though, Crock. We were lucky to hold them 20 points. Drop wide open touchdown. Like this is the thing, Jamal. Things like that are going to happen. There are guys going to have dropped touchdowns. There are going to be guys that drop interceptions, right? As we've seen. There are going to be missed throws by quarterbacks, as we've seen. Like those things happen in every game. There's drops, there's penalties, there's throws. And we can always say, well, if this didn't happen, like, oh, like, no, it didn't happen. It didn't happen. You know what I'm saying? So, I get what you're saying in the sense that, well, they dropped that. It could have been worse. I think we could say that about any game. Oh, well, if they would have called this, it wouldn't have been as bad. If they would have called the offensive face mask on T. Higgins throwing Jalen Ramsey to the ground, that would have took back a 75-yard touchdown. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I see somebody say, hey, Jimmy missed hella throws. Right. If Jimmy hits Kittle on that first drive, Kittle hits his head on the goalpost, he scores. Right? But he just overthrew him. He overthrew Kittle on that first drive. It was like, you can't miss that. Right? But it happened. And the Rams are probably like, it's Kittle in that open field. That's to the crib. Right? So I started to think, how should the 49ers attack this draft? And I think right now they have a good nucleus on the defensive side of the ball. Yes, they might lose Tart. Bring him back, vet minimum. Obviously, you get a guy like Tarvarius Moore back. You got Jimmy Ward coming back. Your linebackers, I think they still get Azeez Al-Shaair. Does he come back? They should be good there. I think defensively, 49ers are going to be all right. They're going to be in a good position. I think they're going to play well. But you got to figure out I need to score more points. I need to be more explosive. How do I do that? A couple of things I wanted to kind of throw out there, guys who kind of maybe performed a little too well for the 49ers. And obviously you want to see guys perform well, but then it's like, damn, you ain't got no chance. Sauce Gardner. I saw some people like, well, if the 49ers can figure out how to get Sauce Gardner, like, no, there is no way. There is no way. They're not getting a guy like Sauce Gardner. Actually, in my recent mock, I have Sauce Gardner going number 3 overall to the Houston Texans. I think he fits what they want to do extremely well. Obviously his testing, that's going to bump him up 6'3", 200 pounds, running 4.41, terrific zone corner, all that. Yeah, he's fine. Cooper Kupp scored 2 third-down touchdowns. Crocs. The Rams didn't do much. I mean, nothing in my opinion. Listen, Cooper Kupp scored 2 third-down touchdowns. I did a third down. Those were the only 2 touchdowns they scored all game. Those were the only 2 touchdowns they scored all game. They scored 2 touchdowns. So, again, we could look at points. It could have been Cooper Kupp. It could have been a run from Cam Akers, whatever. They scored 2 touchdowns. 2. Score more points. 49ers struggled to get to 17. Couldn't score after that. Score more points. I'm going to tell you how they're going to get there. All right. They're probably not going to get there by drafting Christian Watson. All right. I see my girl here, 49ers girl. They're probably not going to get there by drafting Christian Watson. Do y'all remember when Magic Johnson was like, I'm not going to be here? Like, that's Christian Watson right now, pick 61. Like, 49er fans probably message him, what do you think about coming to the 49ers at pick 61? He looking like, I'm not going to be there. I'm not going to be there. It's crazy because I've been, obviously there have been a lot of people kind of talking about Christian Watson and what he could potentially be. Anytime you're coming from an FCS program, there's going to be the, I don't know, lower level competition, whatever, right? We've heard that with Trey Lance. But at the end of the day, if you're dominant, you're dominant. And one thing he was at the FCS level, talking about Christian Watson, he was dominant. And it was clear he was fast, he was explosive, he was big. Him and Trey Lance had a really good connection. They were explosive. He was good in the run game, all that good stuff, right? Terrific blocker. And you see it all on film, but still, 3rd, 4th round type guy because he's at the FCS level. And I'm looking at like, this motherfucker is faster than everybody. He's 6'4". He's legit, with the route running, and he's versatile. And he's returning kicks for touchdowns. And they say he runs 4.3. I don't know if he really does, but maybe he runs low 4.4. I don't know, right? But that was kind of some of the knocks on him or whatever. And then he goes to the Senior Bowl, and he gets the best receiver award of the week. He was the best receiver there. The only other receiver that I thought was like right there with him was maybe Calvin Austin. We're going to get to him. But he was the best receiver, and I saw everything that I need to see from an ability standpoint, his routes, being able to separate, being able to win vertically, being able to win at the catch point, being able to win when he doesn't have separation. I'm like, Christian Watson, this dude's legit. And they're saying he's going to run 4.3. So, we continue to kind of mock him at 61, but, it's like, or I did. But it was like, I don't think he's going to be there. And then he goes to the combine, and he blows it away. He blows the combine away. Goes to the combine. When he was with the FBS guys at the Senior Bowl, he was the best receiver there. He goes to the combine. He runs his initial time was 4.28. It ended up being like 4.35 or something like that. 4.35 at 6'4", 208 pounds. Moved very well. Good route hand. What are we talking about? This is a guy that if he goes first round at the end, I've been kind of mocking him to like Tennessee Titans at the end of the first round. That's why I think he's going to – I wouldn't be surprised at all. Wouldn't be surprised at all. Now, I see 49ers don't need a receiver at 61 anyway. See, I don't know if the 49ers need a receiver, but I do know that 49ers need to be more explosive offensively. More weapons, more explosive, more points, more dynamic. Okay, you got George Kittle. First of all, I don't know what the hell is going on with his usage, but he had like 2 catches. Maybe teams are bracketing him, whatever. But, okay, somebody else got to – okay, we got Deebo Samuel. Damn, we're putting Deebo at running back. So when you think, like, well, I have all these pass catchers, and all of a sudden we get in situations where we're kind of, got to use George Kittle to block. And Deebo, he's running. And then, okay, I got Ayuk, and hopefully – and then I got, okay, Jawan Jennings. Sounds like Richard Sherman and Fred Warner really like him. But I need explosiveness. I need a guy who's going to take the top off the defense, who's going to explode past defenders, who's going to get people out of the box. Maybe just having Trey Lance alone opens things up because he is more aggressive throwing the ball. Saw some stats. He pushes the ball down the field at a high percentage. He's throwing 20 yards downfield at a high percentage. It was like 18% compared to Jimmy Garoppolo's 7%. So he's definitely trying to push the ball. All right. But 49ers need to be more explosive. Who's going to help them do it? Maybe it's Alec Pierce, right? Alec Pierce is another potential viable option. Could be a big slot, much faster than Jennings, right? Yeah, he's a much better prospect. Now, that's not saying that he's going to be a better player than Jennings, but he's definitely a much better prospect than Jennings. A much better prospect. He's a guy that definitely won with 50-50 catch capabilities on the outside. I was down there at Mobile watching him live. The first thing that jumped out to me is like, hey, this guy's got a lot more twitch than I expected. Now, he went to the combine, ran a 4.33. I wasn't expecting that, but he won a lot at Cincinnati. But again, who's he doing against? What conference? Is not Power 5. I get it. But I was another guy that definitely, he woke some people up a little bit. But this is where I'm kind of going with this. And this is I think you're killing two birds with one stone. You're getting more explosive offensively. You're getting more dynamic with your return game. If I'm the 49ers, I'm looking into a couple guys here. One, Calvin Austin. All right. And I see this is crazy about, he's the first guy I have listed here. Calvin Austin, I'm so taking a late round flyer on Calvin Austin. I don't know if it's going to be a late round flyer. I don't know if that's going to do it. We're talking about Calvin Austin, who measured in a tick under 5'8". So it was 5'7" 3/4. 5'8". All right, he's listed at 5'8", not bad. Weighed in at 173 pounds. Now, that's not very heavy, but one thing that was very clear with looking at him, he's rocked up. He's built well. All right, Calvin Austin, he's built well. He's more of a compact guy. Probably can, add a few more pounds. 5'8", 180. We're kind of entering that like Steve Smith type range of kind of built, right? Like not the biggest guy, but like, he's got some stockiness to him. He's not as skinny like our guy Devontae Smith that was coming out, who's 6'1", 165 pounds. Like, 5'8", 175-ish. All right, kind of rocked up, built well. I think this is a guy who, again, went to the combine, ran a 4.32. Now, I was expecting him to run fast because I watched him at the Senior Bowl, and they could not guard him. It did not matter where he lined up. He could be on the outside, didn't matter. He's turning guys around. They tried to press him, couldn't do it. They played off, couldn't do it. They played off on him in the slot, ran right by him. Like, what are you doing? You don't know how to guard me. And then he goes to the combine and does this, 4.32 and 40-inch vertical. This is an extremely explosive guy. All right. Now, what does Kyle Shanahan covet more than anything else? It's that three-cone, baby. It's that three-cone. And Calvin Austin, while running a 4.32, while having an 11.3 broad jump, while having a 40-inch vertical leap, his three-cone, 6.65. That is elite. That's elite. That's elite. So I get it. Is receiver the biggest need? No. But can the 49ers get better and more explosive offensively by adding a weapon like this, as well as having a guy that is a return specialist and he can do that as well, and he's young, you don't got to spend money on it. I see some people, want to go the free agent route, maybe. But, man, this is an explosive guy that you can potentially get. I would wait until third round. Ideally. But if the 49ers are like, you know what, we got to take this guy at pick 61, Eric Crocker wouldn't be mad. I wouldn't be mad. Give me that explosive. Give me that dynamic. Give me that guy where people are trying to figure out, how do we guard this guy on the 49ers? So, one, you got Deebo Samuel. How do we guard him? You got Brandon Ayuk. Let's see him continue to grow. You got George Kittle. How do we guard him? You got a running game. Like, you have all these different things in play. Oh, by the way, we got this guy, Calvin Austin, and you don't know how to guard him. Those are the hardest guys to guard. They're quick, shifty, and he's not just quick and shifty. He's blazing as well. That is extremely difficult to guard. That's one of my favorite. People ask, oh, you got a draft crush? I think Calvin Austin is my draft crush. I want the 49ers to scare team, like be scared when that team steps on the field. When you see all these pass catchers and then the quarterback that has this dynamic ability, I want people to think, how do we guard all this? How do we guard this speed? How do we guard this size? How do we guard the versatility of Deebo Samuel? You know what I'm saying? Like that's what I like, that's what I want to go into games with. Be more dynamic, be more explosive. And that's where I like Calvin Austin a lot. Not the biggest of guys, whatever. But he's cooking. Calvin Austin, Brandon Cooks. You know what I'm saying? Now, Brandon might be a little taller. I think Brandon might be 5'10". And actually, though, Brandon he's a little tightly wound. Like Brandon Cooks, shout out to my guy, Brandon Cooks. You know what I'm saying? Real 209 North Stockton, you feel me? But shout out to my guy Cooks. But he's a little tighter in his movements and his routes and things like that. But yeah, I mean, just that type of guy, like that just scares the defenses and just does things that, you know what, like it's really hard to defend. I want the 49ers to be as dynamic offensively as possible because we went through the numbers here. And I'm going to go through them one more time. Everybody wants to talk about defense, and I get it, limit scoring. But top 10 defenses as far as yards go, 5 out of the 10 made the playoffs. That's just half. Offensively, scoring offense, yards offensively, 9 out of 10 made the playoffs. Get dangerous. Be dynamic. Why was everybody scared? Why was everybody... 49ers were the underdog in every game they played in. Why? How? Well, they're going up against more explosive offenses. Now, when you have a defense that can limit what the other team is doing, which 49ers did a great job of, cool. Now just get more explosive offensively, 49ers. Shout out to my guy Jacobs for the super chat. I totally agree with you. It doesn't matter if you can hold a team to 10 points or less. If you can't outscore the offense, that's why we lost an NFC Championship game. And that's why the 49ers almost lost to the Packers, if not for a block punt and block field goal. It took a block punt and block field goal. And the 49ers, what they scored? 6 points offensively? 6 points. But we talking about defense? We're talking about defense. I feel like Allen Iverson. Defense? We're talking about defense? Giving up 16 points a game in the playoffs? Defense? Again, I told you, scoring offense means more than yards. Everybody want to talk about yards. 49ers limit yards. Or, excuse me, they limited yards and whatever. But it's the points. It's the points. They limited points. Everybody want to talk about these yards. Fuck them yards. I don't care if a team has 500 yards if they only scored 16 points. Who cares how many yards they had? Scored 16 points. 16. Stop playing. Shout out to my guy for the contribution. Boye Mafe or Buzz. So, funny, Boye Mafe, man. You know, so Boye, I got to pay my phone bill. So Boye, I went down to Minnesota to take one of my kids there to train with my guy, Ayo. My guy Ayo, I play with Ayo. He trains guys out there in Minnesota. And yeah, Boye Mafe out there. All right. So I think I got the videos. And this was before all the hype. This was before all that. But my guy was telling me, Crock, boy, you're going to be a first-round pick. Crock, boy, you're going to be a first-round pick. And I'm like, man, are you sure? And here's some videos right here from my Instagram. You see, look at Boye right there demonstrating. And he's working with my guy. Let's see if they show my guy. There goes my guy right there out here from Monticello. So I took him, and it was good, man. He got one-on-one work with Boye for a few days. Not just that day, the day prior to that as well. There's some really good stuff. But Boye, amazing dude. And it was crazy to see him go to the combine and blow it away at 6'4", 260 pounds, running a 4.53, coming off that edge. He can line up inside. He could rush from the 3-tech. He could drop in the coverage. He was smooth, looks the part. Them Africans, man, they just be built different. It's like, how come I didn't get those genes? I think you have said Lance is green. What does that mean? Have I said Lance is green? I don't think Lance is any more or less greener than some of the other people. I'd say if there is a green element to Trey Lance's game, it's more so of like he just doesn't have a lot of passing attempts. So, like anything in life, right? The more you do something, the more you get comfortable with it. And then when I look at Trey Lance, at times I can see, man, you could tell like he's not as comfortable just throwing the ball, just letting it rip. Until I saw the practice film, right? You see the practice and you see him rolling left, flicking the ball, throwing it this way, darts, throwing in, you know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, he's getting more comfortable throwing the ball. But the more he throws, he's just going to get more and more comfortable. And you're going to see more of this special come out of him. That's what I believe. That's what I believe. I think it's going to be very – Trey Lance is going to be good. Brian Griese is going to help him get there. Appreciate the contribution. Crock, where yards do matter is in the time of possession, which limits the opposing points too. Right? And I think the 49ers typically do a good job of that, right? Maybe the 49ers don't have a great defense, but they limit, and I won't even say limit. I mean, because the yards don't matter, but it's limiting opponents' points. That's the biggest thing to me. Limit the points. I don't yards. And I think it's Bill Belichick too. I don't think Bill Belichick cares about yards. He don't want to give up points. Fuck the yards. Don't give up points. He really got the baseball throw in his arsenal and just get, yeah. I mean, he was out there sidearming it. Like, to me, those are things when you watch Trey Lance. And again, it's just practice clips. And I didn't take a whole lot from the practice clips, but the one thing that I did really like to see was he is getting comfortable throwing the ball. And the more you see that, and again, that comes with a lot more reps. It's like anything. Like, all of y'all have jobs, your first day on the job, you know, and it's like, okay, even though I've kind of done this or I've learned this, but okay, now I'm on the floor. I got to do it or whatever, right? Compare that first day to you being a year in. How much more comfortable were you doing the same thing, right? But just now, like, and you may be knowledgeable heading into it, but now you're just comfortable, right? So there's no difference in me kind of being on this channel and speaking. And the more I speak, the more comfortable I get talking to. I got over almost 400 people in here right now live. And that's a lot of people to speak to and not stumble over yourself, which I did early in the show. And I kind of made a mental note like, Crock, you're tripping right now, dude. You're tripping. All right. But the more you do something, the more comfortable you get. And I think that's what we're seeing with Trey Lance. Somebody that has an immense amount of talent. All right. He's going to be just fine. Pass rush equals less points in the passing league draft edge. I hear you, Vic, but I got to score more points. I got to be more dynamic. Got to score more points. Why do you think the Niners move on? Why do you think Niners move on from Jimmy? They want a superstar quarterback because they realize Jimmy can't win the Niners Super Bowl ring. Here's a question. Fernando, appreciate the contribution. Do you think that the 49ers, say Jimmy was never hurt, do you think 49ers still would have drafted a quarterback? Like, say Jimmy didn't get hurt, and the 49ers continue to kind of do what they kind of did this year. I think a lot of it is Trey Lance is kind of pushing Jimmy out. I think if 49ers would be in a weird situation if not for the Jimmy Garoppolo injuries, because I think we continue to watch Jimmy and know, man, we just want more. But I don't think they would have gotten more. Now, obviously, Kyle was looking into, I think, if the opportunity presented itself and he could trade for a Deshaun Watson or something like that, then he might pull the trigger. But how often does something like that happen? And typically, it's not an ideal situation for the quarterback that's potentially getting traded, unless it's like a Matthew Stafford thing where it just ran its course in Detroit. And it was like, man, y'all starting over. All right, like I've gave 11 years to this organization. I'm out now. But thank you. Right? But typically, quarterbacks aren't really available. But let's say one was. Let's say Deshaun Watson. It would be something like that where it's like, got a chance to get better. Right? We got a chance to get better. But I think the 49ers would be in a really weird dynamic if Jimmy never got hurt. And when I say never got hurt, I mean like just half the games that the 49ers have played since him being here. Like, that's a lot of games, right? He missed half of them. Not ideal. I don't know if they would have drafted a quarterback. So I say all that to say, I get it. You want the superstar quarterback and things like that. But I think Jimmy Garoppolo's injuries opened the door for that. Not saying that they were super happy about his performances or never felt like they could get better or anything like that. But I do believe that the injuries really kind of kicked the door open for them to try to improve. So I don't know if it was just as simple as, well, they want a superstar quarterback. I think everybody wants a superstar quarterback. But a lot of people good with just having a Jimmy Garoppolo and, having that consistency, knowing you have an opportunity, if not for him being injured. All right, so, but yeah, hopefully I'm pretty sure when you draft a quarterback number 3 overall, you want him to be a superstar. And I'd say most people that aren't being weird about it could say, yeah, Trey Lance has superstar capabilities. This is a guy, I don't care what level he played at. As a 19-year-old kid playing as a freshman, he led a team undefeated to a national title. They won it all. Didn't lose a game. Like, to me, that you to do that, you have special qualities. You have special qualities. That's hard to do. Now, obviously, a great program. That's hard to do. 28 touchdowns, 0 picks, another 14, 15 rushing touchdowns. Like, he had an amazing year. He had superstardom. Crock, give me a dynamic wide receiver. We can't keep letting talent go to other team. Right. Again, I mean, I talked about it. Or are you saying, like, as far, are we looking into the draft? Right. Crock, give me the dynamic wide receiver. We can't keep letting talent go to another team. All the weapons we need enough. And on defense to stop KC, because defense wasn't ranked high in the Super Bowl. Right. So I think that's what people – but one thing about that Kansas City defense, and we're talking about in the Super Bowl against the 49ers, they were at the time, like the last half of the season, playing at a very high level. It wasn't – so, yeah, you're going to take all their numbers overall and say, well, this is what they were for the year. But if you look at down the stretch and heading into the playoffs, it was a good defense. They were playing at a high level. So heading into the 49ers game, it was a better defense than what they had started the season with. That was 2019, of course. Another super chat here. I honestly feel like Jimmy was never the same after his ACL tear. I think Jimmy was 100% the same. I don't want to say 100%. I think Jimmy was the same. I say the Jimmy that we saw this year was, for the most part, the Jimmy we saw in 2019, give or take a game or two, where it's like, well, he had a really good game here. But Jimmy is kind of just Jimmy. And he's been Jimmy ever since he showed up to the 49ers. What Jimmy did in 2017, I mean, it looked the same. It looked the same. He was good and efficient on third downs. His turnover his touchdown to turnover margin was ugly. I think he threw in the starts in the five starts he had 6 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Like that's almost 1-to-1. Like that's terrible, right? But he was good and efficient on third downs. You watched him early on against the Vikings. He came out against the Vikings and threw 3 interceptions. 49ers lost. They almost lost the next week to Detroit. He threw a pick that was damn near run back, but they called holding on the other side of the field. And then the 49ers came out and lost to Kansas City. And then obviously he eventually tore his ACL that game. But I think Jimmy's always been the same. If you want to say maybe he doesn't move quite as well, maybe. I don't know. But to me, it's the same Jimmy Garoppolo. Same. 2019 didn't start great. Maybe it's because he's come off the ACL injury. Thought he finished strong for Jimmy. But, I mean, come playoff time, they were trying to take the ball out of his hands and did everything they could to, like, wait, man, we running 10 yards of carry. Don't throw the ball. Playing against the Vikings. Stop throwing the ball. I think Jimmy's always kind of been the same. All right, here we go. Throwing this out here again. Here's the chat. You guys want to come on live? We talked a little bit about some of the draft. I want to go receiver. I want to get more explosive. You got a whole draft to add to defense, add to edge. You got a whole, you know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying I would if the value of a player is higher at a certain position, even if it's not receiver, okay, take that guy. But I'm really looking to get more explosive at the receiver position. If you want to come in, go ahead, click that link right there. If you haven't already, hit the like button, subscribe button. Join the conversation. Got about 400 of y'all in here right now. Live. Appreciate everybody that's in here tuned in. Now, again, I'm not someone that's going to say wideout is the biggest need. I don't care if it's not or whatever. Be more explosive. Be more dynamic. Be scarier on offense. Scare these teams. Have these teams try to figure out how am I going to defend this 49ers team? How? That's what I want. I want people to figure out that. Maybe my guy Medic Mike can talk me off that ledge. All right. Maybe he said, "No, Crock, you tripping." All right, here we go.
What's happening, Crock? How you doing, man?
Oh man, I'm chilling, man. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. I like where you're at with the receiver, but I think there's a big overlooked component of that. Going back and watching some film, I think if Brandon Ayuk's dad wanted to do what OBJ's dad did and just watch him running open all over the field, he could have had a highlight film of that. I mean, there were so many plays where I watched him cooking dudes on post corners in different type of routes, and no one was ever looking his way, whether it's a comfort thing. I mean, you had Debo break out, Kittle's your safety valve. But I think with Trey, he obviously showed a rapport with Ayuk. I mean, when you look at his first pass in the preseason, he scrambled out where to go, Ayuk. When he came in and started against the Texans, I believe Ayuk had 100 yards that game. It was a quiet, I think he had like 6 for 104 or something like that. No one talked about it.
Was it I think he went over 100 against the Rams. I think he had like 90 something against Houston. Right?
Okay.
Or maybe I'm wrong. But I know it was around there. Yeah, it was around there.
Right. But I know he played real well, and every time Trey seems to come in, he plays real well. They seem to have a really good rapport with each other. And so when I think you're looking at Debo, I think you're looking at Ayuk. And I think when you're looking at Kittle, who I hope, like you said, is utilized a little bit more, you only have so many options to go around. And Kyle Shanahan's not going to want to stray too far from the run game. He's still going to want to have like a 45-55, 50-50 split. So when you look at weapons like that, I'm looking more at someone who's like a returner who can also be a deep threat. I think you can find that possibly in the later rounds. Now, in the draft, I'm all about best player available. If you got a receiver who's in a different tier than everybody else at number 61 who's still available, I mean, let's say someone like Christian Watson drops there, you take him. You take that talent.
And that's what we saw from Dallas, right? A couple years ago.
Yeah, when CeeDee Lamb dropped to them.
It was like they had Gallup and Cooper both coming off 1,000-yard seasons, and still it was like, wow, what is CeeDee Lamb doing here? We're taking them at a time where they had a terrible defense, but they're like, we'll figure out the defense later. And
exactly.
That's the part that I think a lot of people forget. Dallas, okay, they drafted CeeDee Lamb, and it felt like it was crazy at the time, but the rest of their draft was defense.
Yep.
The rest of their draft was defense. I don't think they didn't take one more offensive guy. Everything else, the rest of that draft was defense. So even if it's something that doesn't seem like necessarily a need, you have an entire draft to really address a lot of areas where you want to improve.
I mean, when we keep it real, most of the league is made up of 3rd, 4th, and 5th round picks. Right. I mean, so it's those top guys. If you get someone in that next tier, you gotta pull the trigger there. So yeah, so there I agree with your stance. However, I think we're underestimating what we have on the roster. I think BA is going to be a lot bigger weapon than people think. One of the dudes that I do hope drops to 61, I don't know if you've watched him yet, Myjai Sanders, Cincinnati's edge rusher.
Mm-hmm.
Not strong in the run, but when you talk about situational pass rusher, someone who reminds me of a young, healthy D Ford with that explosive first step and fast off the edge, that guy. And, it correlates right into what we're talking about. It's all about scoring points. And, you want those dynamic offenses. Well, the person who's going to interrupt a quarterback the most is going to be an edge rusher.
And he's a guy, too, Myjai Sanders out of Cincinnati, a guy who might kind of slide. I didn't think he tested necessarily well. For a guy who he has the length, he has the ability, 6'5", but he weighed in at 228 pounds. Now, I did hear something about him being maybe sick or something like that. And he had lost some weight. So that could definitely have something to do with it. But yeah, 6'5", 228 pounds as an edge rusher, that's not necessarily ideal. Now, can he add 25 pounds to his frame? Yes. When I was watching him at the Senior Bowl, I had my guy Io next to me. He's the defensive line specialist type guy. And he was like, hey, yeah, he's like that guy right there. He was like, he's kind of built narrow, but he was like, he has the frame to really be able to fill out. His body could hold more weight. So whatever he is right now, I wouldn't worry too much about it. They'll probably add some weight to him and it won't affect his game at all.
Right. And yeah, I see him as that pure situational pass rush specialist. That's how I view him. One more dude who I did some work on, and I don't know where he's planning to go, but Elam, the corner out of Florida.
Yeah.
I watched him, and you talking about someone who plays confident. Like this dude, when he would get up and press somebody in their face, I mean, it was almost like he was like, I dare you to run by me. It didn't matter how fast they were. You saw him against Alabama. I mean, he was in your face like, come on, beat me. Like he played extremely confident, was very aggressive, not a very good tackler, but he was aggressive. He would attack the line of scrimmage. He would attack the dudes. Like he was a very aggressive player, and I know he has length. So what do you have? I'm sure you've watched him. What are your thoughts on Elam? Did you see the same things I was seeing?
Yeah, he's probably one of my favorite guys in the class. I'd say, how people be like, this is my guy. Like, people have their draft crushes. I think for me, it's Calvin Austin, wide receiver out of Memphis, and him. You know what I'm saying? And Kyer Elam, cornerback out of Florida. He measured in extremely well. A guy that's 6'2", hovering around 200 pounds. He ran 4.39, I believe it was. I think on film he moves extremely well. Like you said, he challenged himself at the line of scrimmage. I watched the Alabama game and how he was working to defend Jameson Williams, who I think is terrific. Jameson Williams probably would have been number one receiver taken off the board if not for the ACL injury. But he played with big-time confidence against those guys. And was making plays on the ball, breaking up passes. He's like, pointing at them after plays. And I'm like, okay, this is my type of guy. And I have to watch more because I'm curious why maybe people aren't as high on him as I am. And I probably will as soon as I get done with this because I have a draft show I have to do after this with the New York Giants. But it's like I like it. I like what I see so far. So yeah, I'm with you there.
Okay, cool. Yeah, he really impressed me when I was watching him. And the year before, they seemed to have him in off coverage a lot of times. I was like, what are they doing? You got this long corner who's aggressive. Why are you playing him in off coverage? But they seem to have figured it out this year. And then one more, McCreary. I know a lot of people know about him, but I'm hoping that there's a lot of GMs and scouts that, have that threshold. And I'm hoping his little, short arms, make him fall off a lot of people's draft board because he's another dude who plays with a ton of confidence. It's very aggressive, can mirror receivers very well. So he's another one of dudes where you say, like, that's my guy, someone I like. Yeah, McCreary he's a bad man.
I love McCreary's game. I think he's definitely a guy who this whole process kind of hurt him a little bit. He's a guy who I believe is the top 5 corner in this class based off of ability. But when you come in and you measure in at 5'11", 186 pounds, they're going to be like, all right, he's kind of slight. But okay, well, at least he has length. Well, no, he doesn't have that. He has sub 30-inch arm length arms. All right. So, I mean, it was like 28.5 inches. He might have the shortest arms of anyone in this class. They're going to be teams because he's under 31. They're just going to cross him off of their list immediately because, well, his arms are just too short. They're not going to like that. And I had a stat here. Let me see if I can bring it up real quick. As it pertains to arm length and kind of what that means. Let me look at it. Here we go. Now, this is just top 20 guys. So this is a small sample size. All right, but it says here are the five cornerbacks with sub 31-inch arms. And we're not even talking about this guy. We're talking about McCreary has under 30-inch arms. But sub 31-inch arms taken in the top 20 over the past 12 drafts. Vernon Hargraves, Drake Kirkpatrick, Prince Amukamara, Damon Arnett, and Kareem Jackson. I think all those guys, they played in the league for a good amount of time, but maybe didn't live up to the expectation where they drafted. I don't know if arm length is the reason why or why he made it the cutoff, just the top 20. But that's something to kind of think about a little bit, right? Like what correlation does that have? And when you have a cornerback like McCreary who doesn't have the arm length, some people are going to knock him. Now, from an ability standpoint. And if he's there at 61, that's probably my favorite pick for the 49ers. He's a guy who can line up outside and play cornerback and play very well against any type of receiver. He went to the combine. You would hope that he ran faster. He ran 4.55. Again, that hurt him. Yeah, so you have short arms. You don't have the length. You didn't run fast. You're not very big. There are going to be teams that pigeonhole him right away into being that nickel position type guy. But I think for the 49ers, who can use someone to challenge guys on the outside, I think McCray can definitely play on the outside. He's terrific from that standpoint. I think in the inside playing in the slot, he's terrific from there. Watching him run vertical with guys like John Mechie, like Jameson Williams when they played against Alabama. He did a terrific job with that. So I'm with you. He's a guy that I really, really like. But I think, the measurables are going to really hurt him and potentially have him drop to the 49ers at pick 61.
That'd be beautiful. I would love that. Where do you think your boy Calvin Austin's going to go? Because when I initially watched him and was hearing about him, I was thinking, 4th, 5th round. But, I mean, he did exactly what we expected him to do at the combine. He was blazing. He looked explosive out of his drills, too. I mean, you talking about someone who hit top speed real fast.
Yeah, it's tough because, again, he's another guy where, maybe you don't hear a whole lot about a guy. And, he played well. He's productive at Memphis. He's doing his thing on offense and special teams. Then he goes to the Senior Bowl. And, again, he was the second best receiver there to Christian Watson, who might have worked his way into the first round. So How high would Calvin Austin go? I think, obviously, he's not the same caliber of prospect because, Christian Watson, 6'4", 210 pounds, running in the 4.3s. But Austin, being 5'8", 170-something pounds. I think he can even add a little bit more weight and still keep his speed and dynamicness. There are going to be teams that might be really high on him. And we saw Tutu Atwell, right? Tutu Atwell just a year ago was drafted in the second round to the Rams. And he weighed in at 155 pounds. But he was a guy that everybody was like, he can run well, even though he's slim built. So, Calvin Austin, you look at him and you think, well, that's the day 3 guy, 4th round, 5th round. But if he goes day 2 in the high day 2, wouldn't be surprised.
And when I saw him and how he tested, it instantly brought me back to Rondale Moore and Elijah Moore. 2 dudes, very short, very fast, dynamic, explosive guys. And they went in, I think, both in the second round or first and second round last year. And so I'm like, teams aren't shying away from these small, explosive guys anymore. They're using them. They're finding ways to get them open and get them in space. And so I think a lot of before where you're like, receiver under, 5'10", he automatically, fall into a day 3 pick. Yeah, I don't think that's the case anymore. So before where I was like, man, this is someone I would love to have in, the 4th, 5th round. You can double up as a returner for us and, see if we can really develop him as a deep threat. Now I'm not so sure, but I mean, if he's there in the 3rd round, I believe we gave up our comp pick, I think, but I think we might have a 3rd and another comp pick this year in the 3rd. But yeah, I wouldn't mind using a 3rd round pick on him at all.
Have you seen anything on Tyquan Thornton? Obviously, he had the fastest 40 in his class.
Yeah, I just saw that he could blaze. That's it.
Yeah, he. I mean, I didn't know anything about him. And then obviously you see somebody run that fast and you're like, man, and a lot of this class, the thing that really jumped out to me, it was fast. It's the fastest receiver class, fastest defensive back class. But from a receiver standpoint, when you think of just speed like that, you're just thinking, man, these guys are just straight line guys. But watching him and some of the other guys, I think they were terrific. Chris Olave ran in the 4.3s. Garrett Wilson ran in the 4.3s. Like those guys are blazing. Christian Watson, these guys, they are more than just speed guys. Thornton might be a little bit more of your prototypical kind of speed guy, but watching him is like, wow, he plays to his 40. Like he is dynamic. He runs away from guys. I think he does a terrific job of creating separation in short areas. I think a lot of it has to do with his speed. He's terrific at the contested catch. There was a lot to really like about Thornton and how he plays, just getting behind defenses, just separating, just running away from guys consistently. He was terrific in the red zone against TCU. I watched 3 opportunities for him. He scored a couple of touchdowns there, and it was easy. It was effortless just because he's so fast, even in that short area of field. So Thornton was a guy who I was surprised when I cut on the film because I wasn't expecting to see that. I was expecting to see like Denzel Mims, where I'm like, Denzel Mims didn't play to his speed. He's so stiff. He's so tight. But
Yeah.
that wasn't necessarily the case with Thornton. I thought he was a solid receiver.
Interesting. Yeah, I know nothing about him. Yeah, these receivers were flying down the track. I was like, man, what did they put on there? But him, and then I wanted to watch Velus Jones. I've heard a little bit about him, but I haven't watched any film on him. And so I wanted to kind of see what he was about. But I'm gonna have to go watch Thornton now.
Yeah, go watch Thornton, man. Go do that right now. But I appreciate you coming on.
Appreciate you having me, Crock.
All right, you have a good one.
You too.
Yeah, man. Some of these receivers, Velus Jones, he's the guy who a lot of people were telling me, hey, man, you're going to be at the Senior Bowl. Watch Velus Jones. Like, watch Velus Jones. And one thing was very consistent throughout Senior Bowl week, he was running past guys. So the fact that he went around in the 4.3s, I guess I shouldn't be surprised because he was another guy that was really fast at the Senior Bowl. And maybe somebody who comes in, he can maybe develop into a deep threat guy that's more consistent from that standpoint. I hear some people say right away he profiles well as a returner as well. He was a guy who I saw some tweets say, man, he was the most polished receiver, at the combine with how he was running. I don't know if I go that far just yet, but I'll definitely, hopefully today I'll dive into his film and be able to give you guys a little bit more information on who Jones is. But I appreciate everybody tuning in today, man. I have one tweet that will start. My bad. Oh, man. My bad. I didn't get to this super chat. Watching the first round now, huh? 428 from my guy Cap speaking. There. I think so. Because if I don't know what more he has to do. Okay, played at the FCS level, but he dominated. The best receiver, like he dominated. And then when you look at his height, his weight, his that athletic chart thing, he's like at the top. 6'4", 210 pounds, running the 4.3s, good route runner, contested catch guy, good hands, stretch the field, can return kicks, ran one back for a touchdown at North Dakota State. End arounds, ran off on people with the end arounds, the little jet sweep stuff that the 49ers do with Deebo Samuel. They did it with him at North Dakota State, outran everybody. I mean, terrific skill set. I see some people say he's not getting by Green Bay. I don't think he's getting by Tennessee. If I'm Tennessee, that's what I'm taking. Now, Tennessee doesn't have a second-round pick because of Julio Jones. We'll see if they kind of double down on receivers. I'm curious to see how that all plays out. Watson is what MVS was supposed to be. Yeah, MVS. I don't know what's the issue with MVS. Because that's somebody. He's going to be a free agent. I don't know how much he's going to get, but I would like him on the 49ers. They don't go receiver in a draft. Give me that tall guy that can stretch the field. But just kind of inconsistent, I guess. So being on the 49ers, he had to be the wide receiver 2 next to Devontae Adams in Green Bay. Maybe a lot of pressure. Maybe that's just not who he is. Maybe, hey, come to the 49ers. Be our fourth option. Come be our fourth option. We got Kittle. We got Debo. We got Ayuk. Just be the fourth option behind those guys. I think that'll help him. So he doesn't have to be the sure-handed guy because, again, like my guy BSC says here, he wasn't sure-handed. He sure wasn't. You know who he was sure-handed against? The 49ers. He kept kicking the 49ers' ass. MVS, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, he kicked the 49ers' ass. But I appreciate everybody that's in the chat, man. You already know what it is. We're going to be here tomorrow morning, same time, same place, 6:30 a.m. Pacific, 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. If you haven't already, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, all that good stuff. Appreciate everybody that tuned in today. Didn't get as much callers as we usually do. All right. If you have any questions, man, if you're not watching this live, just go ahead and leave some in the comments. All right. Also, you can follow me on Twitter right there at Eric_Crocker on Twitter. You got Underdog Fantasy, promo code Crocky. All right. CROCKY. You want to bet on over, unders, player props, all that good stuff. NBA, NHL. I mean, they got it all over, man. All over sports. We got to get more into this. Underdog Fantasy. Download the app right now. Underdog Fantasy, underdogfantasy.com. Promo code Crocky. We're going to get into some good stuff there, man. But again, I appreciate everybody that tuned into the show today, man. Y'all make my mornings fun. Hope y'all enjoyed it. I did, but that's going to do it. We're going to sound the horns now. Peace.
Intercepted. It is picked off by Aaron Crocker. Over midfield, he'll run it all the way into the end zone. Touchdown.
Crock Talk TV podcast. Peace.